She sold the property for a living, land, houses, places people planned to grow old in. But one morning in Nakuru, Mary Wangoi herself was found abandoned. Her body dumped near Ngata Bridge like something no one wanted to claim. The night before, she stepped out after a phone call and money being sent to her phone. She said she'd be back. She never was. By sunrise, her family was searching, and by midday, social media had already found her. And so tonight on Murder Tips, we retrace Mary Wangoi's final hours, the call, the night out, the bridge where her life ended, and the investigation that began loudly, then vanished. We are speaking to the sister who was with her that night and to her father who is still waiting for justice. So, who killed Mary Wangoi, we ask? And why does her case feel like it was quietly buried along with her? I am Brian Obuya. This is not just any other murder story on a TV near you. This is Murder Tips, final night out. And so, it begins. A woman who sells property is expected to build futures, secure titles, slam the gavel on uncertainty, and turn dirt and cement into dreams, people's dreams. But what if that same woman whose job was turning plans into reality found her own life buried like an unmarked plot? Here is the story of Angeline Mary Wangoi Minor, a real estate saleswoman fending for herself shortly before joining campus, and her young life that was cut short and quietly buried by the silence of the police. It was December 11th, 2022 in Nakuru County. The evening started like any other for Mary Wangoi. A family dinner at home in Barnabas area. Laughter in the living room and many nothings with her elder sister Tracy Nyambura, and a quiet promise to return from a night out.
We were just relaxing in Mary's house. She was staying in Barnabas in Nakuru, and she received a call. There is a friend of her who was inviting her to a party, and she told me that she would go because it was the second time she was being invited, and this time she couldn't decline.
And as though not to disappoint again, the phone call came at a moment when nothing felt dangerous. Mary Wangoi had been at home in Barnabas in that early evening hour when daylight had not fully surrendered, but the night was already announcing itself through noise, matatus leaning on their horns, border borders weaving impatiently between pedestrians. Music was spilling out of kiosks in competing rhythms. Inside the house, there had been calm, the quiet presence of family. Just normalcy for Wangoi and her sister. The call to Wangoi was brief and not dramatic. She had received a plan. It was supposed to be a night out. They said it was a party. And moments later, transport money had dropped into her phone. The confirmation that the evening had shifted direction. Mary had stood already halfway committed. That decision was made as naturally as so many others before. The party had been planned for Kiamunye, a neighborhood known for its off-campus freedom, popular with Kabrak University students looking for space that is away from rules and supervision. These house parties often followed an unspoken script. Alcohol flowing easily, substances circulating quietly, boundaries loosening, music growing louder as the night deepened. For many students, it was where youth played itself out, recklessly at times, but predictably. So Mary stepped outside. Barnabas had greeted her with its usual chaos. The Matatu terminus had been alive, conductors shouting destinations over one another. Engines were rumbling, and passengers were squeezing in and out of vehicles with practiced impatience. She had moved through it easily, blending into the crowd like another young woman heading somewhere, unremarkable and unnoticed. Behind, at the Matatu terminus, was Tracy, alone and heavily pregnant, now having to go up the staircase alone.
I even remember escorting her to the bus station. I remember she told me that she'll be back the following day early by 8. So it was okay with me. I allowed her to go.
She boarded a matatu bound for Kiamunye. As it had pulled away, the density of Barnabas had given way to quieter roads and student-filled residential stretches where clusters of young people walked in small groups, laughter rising and falling. The night still full of promise. Somewhere ahead, her host, her boyfriend, Meka Kiprotich, had been waiting, along with other students already settling into the rhythm of the party. Mary Wangoi had believed this was a short journey, out for the night, back home later, and she had no way of knowing that this matatu ride from the noisy streets of Barnabas to the student enclaves of Kiamunye would be the last ordinary journey she would ever make. She had stepped into the night expecting it to give her back safely. It never did.
Following day, at exactly 8, I started calling her. She couldn't pick my call. I kept on calling. The phone was going through, but there was no one was receiving. When it got to around 9:30 there, I started getting worried. So I had to inform my other sister who was staying at a place called Mbarok. I called her and I told her that Mary had gone to a party and I'm trying to reach her and she's not even receiving my phone. So my sister just laughed, the one that I called. She just laughed and told me, it's like you don't know Mary. Mary, she'll have to greet all her friends in Nakuru before she comes back. So just be patient, she'll be back.
Hours earlier, Wangoi had spoken to her father. She told him that she and Tracy would be coming home the following day. It was a public holiday, Jamhuri Day, and there was no sense of urgency in her voice, only the ease of a daughter making ordinary plans with her father.
alinipigia simu nikiwa Naivasha, akaniambia dada yake amemtembelea huko Nakuru na wana plan kuja kutusalimia on 12 wakikuja holiday yao hapa, because every other December hawa watoto wangu huja. So akaniambia wako na dada yake huko Nakuru. Dada yake alikuwa wakati huo alikuwa anaishi Gong, amemtembelea ndio watoke wote pamoja wakuja hapa Nakuru. So that was on 11. Nikiwa huko ndio nikuja hapa nyumbani, na akaniambia nikikuja hapa nyumbani nisalimie mama yake. Wakati nilikuja nikaambia mama yake nimepigiwa simu na msichana Mary na ameniambia nikusalimie, na wako na dada yake yule anakaa Gong, anaitwa Tracy. So sisi tukakaa tukiwangoja hiyo tarehe 12 kama kulingana na vile walikuwa wametuambia wanakuja. So on that particular day, hiyo ya 11, ile maneno tukasikia ni kwamba kuna pate walikuwa na attend, na akapigiwa simu na kijana fulani ambaye kulingana na vile nisikia labda alikuwa boyfriend yake.
The man who made the phone call was Mika Kiprotich. Together with friends, he said he wanted to spend the night in the company of Mary Wangoi and other young women. By his account, it was simply a party. Mika was not a stranger to record. Now his name appears on Kabrak University's 2023 graduation list among 49 other students who satisfied the requirements for the award of a Bachelor of Science in Clinical Medicine, a course built around care, ethics, and the preservation of life. On paper, his future was clear. What happened that night, however, was not.
Akiongea na sisters wake anawaambia kuna rafiki yake anakuwaga daktari huko, anasomea udaktari Kabarak University na hako karibu kumaliza, na yeye pia alikuwa na intentions za kujoin NTC.
Wangoi had not been drawn simply by the idea of a Prince Charming, but by the resemblance she thought she saw between them. She was drawn to the future he appeared to represent. She carried an insatiable hunger to join the medical world herself, and Kabrak University or the Kenya Medical Training College had long featured in her plans. She trusted the familiarity of that ambition, and she followed it, and that, perhaps, was the cruelest irony of all. It was now December 12th. Tracy was not the only one waiting for Mary. Remember, back at home in Gilgil, they were both expected. Plans had been made. The assumption was simple, that Mary would return from her party and the day would continue as planned. But Mary was yet to return home in Barnabas.
Sasa sisi 12 tukangoja, hakuna watu walikuja, lakini hatukupiga simu. Tukakaa tukigoja labda watakuja. So we didn't remember to even call to ask kama mliamua namna gani.
And being at the center of it all, Tracy was feeling the weight of the heat. Something inside her was burning. It was not a good feeling. She felt it before she could name it. There was this tightening in her chest, a quiet heat spreading through her body, the kind that comes not from panic, but from instinct. Something was wrong. Not loudly wrong, just wrong enough to refuse to be ignored, even though her other sister insisted it was all fine. That's how young girls behave, she said.
It became so alarming at around 11. I kept calling. The phone is not being received. But it is going through. So I called again my other sister. I told her the same, and she told me, this is not too much. She told me, okay, we talked, and she told me that that is a bit alarming. Then we need to find out maybe what is happening. But it never crossed our mind that such a thing could have happened.
But the worst was yet to come. Everything was happening too fast, and it all appeared like a script from a Danielle Steele thriller.
At around 1 p.m., the latter called me, and she told me there's a story that is going on in FB that we need to check out, because it's like they're describing somebody that looks like our sister. Then I asked her, what do you mean? She told me, just go to this and this. It was Nakuru moms and dads. No, Nakuru moms. Somebody has posted something. So I immediately went there, and after seeing what was trending there, it was about a girl who was killed, and her body was dumped somewhere at Gata Bridge. Yeah. So the way they described her, there's only one thing that made me switch off and say, no, this can't be my sister, because they said that it's a dark-skinned girl. Her complexion was black, and knowing my sister, that couldn't be her. So I went back to my other sister, and I told her, yeah, I've followed the story, but that cannot be Mary, because the way they're explaining her body complexion, that can't be Mary. We just relaxed. We waited, but all this time I'm just worried because it's getting too late. And it was at 3 p.m. again she called me. She told me, no, Nyambu, this is a bit serious. Can you just talk to the one that posted whatever she posted? Ask her for more information. So I gathered courage. I talked to the lady.
The lady was Margaret Waithaka, a resident of Nakuru. She wasn't comfortable holding an interview with murder tips when we reached out to her.
I told her, just if you're near her, can you just take a picture and send me? And she told me, no, I can't do that. The police are around, and we're not allowed even to go near the place. So I just decided, now I have most of her pictures in my phone. So I took a picture that is black and white, because they already told me that the body is she has a black complexion. So I looked for a photo that is black and white, so that she can compare with whoever she's seeing there. Then she tell me if there's any similarities. I sent her the photo. She immediately called me. No, she has called the number and immediately called me. She told me, I'm very sorry. I think this is your sister. I still didn't believe. I told her, but you said that she has a red ribbon on her head. My sister didn't come. That is not her color. Actually, she can't put a red ribbon on her head. Then she told me, no, actually, it's not a ribbon, it's her hair. She had plaited black hair, then red at the back. Then still not getting. I'm not still believing what she's telling me. So I just stayed like that. My sister keeps calling. I don't even want to talk. But then later on, I called the husband to my sis. I called my sis and told her if she could talk to her husband, because he works in Nakuru town, so that he can do a follow-up and go maybe and confirm. Because at that time I couldn't move. I was almost due. I was pregnant. I was almost due, and I couldn't make to go to such a place. Now, my in-law went there. When he went there, he was told that the police have already taken the body, and it has already been taken to the morgue. So he decided to go there. He went, and that's when he confirmed that indeed it was our sister. So he called us and told us that, sorry, but this is Mary.
You're watching Murder Tapes. We take a short break. Mary was dead. Now it was time to figure out how to inform Mr. Minor back in Gilgil about this sad, tragic development.
Siku iliyofuata tarehe 13 ndio tuliletewa ripoti kuwa kuna watu walikuja hapa wakatuambia one of our daughters amepata ajali and we need to go tukamwangalia, na wakatuambia ni Mary. But when we went to Nakuru, on our way ndio wakatuambia exactly what had happened. And when we went to Nakuru, tukaenda kwa mochari, tukakuta ni kweli ni Mary na hayuko hai. So wakafanya kutoka hapo sasa ndio tukafanya arrangement ya kwenda to the nearest police station tusikie vile maneno ilikuwa kulingana na mahali walimpata. Na tukapelekwa mpaka site mahali alipatikana. Because alikuwa ametupwa mahali kama hapa tu. Hata some young ladies, one young lady alimwona very early in the morning akiwa uchi, akaenda akachukua yuko akakuja akamfunika.
The Viceroy's body was dumped here near Ngata Bridge along the Nakuru-Eldoret highway. She was naked, cold to the touch. Investigators would later estimate that she had been dead for several hours before she was discovered. Her body left exposed beside a road that never truly sleeps. It was this discovery and the details that followed that compelled Murder Tapes to look closer. Not just at how Mary Wangoi died, but at what happened after. To look closer at the gaps, the silences, the sudden slowing of a case that had begun with urgency and then inexplicably lost its momentum. As the facts were examined, uncomfortable questions began to emerge about decisions made by police and avenues that were not pursued by police, about an investigation that appeared at critical moments to look away from itself. So, was this merely incompetence, or was it neglect, or was it something more deliberate and sinister? In the next few minutes, Murder Tapes takes a sharp turn away from the official narrative and into the spaces police records do not explain. Murder Tapes is asking questions that investigators either failed to ask or chose not to. And we are doing this because when justice stalls without reason, Murder Tapes believes it is no longer enough to ask what happened. We must also ask why. So, let's do this and hope we can finally shed some light here, or at least show with finality how investigators and the prosecution failed Mary Wangoi. Was there really a party? The media, by accounts from Wangoi's family, described the alleged meetup as a party to welcome first years to the university. However, several things make Murder Tapes doubt that narrative. The first one is that there exists nothing online to show that Kabrak University students had organized any such party. So, I went to Nakuru for a second time to get clarity on this party. I posed the question to Chege, Wangoi's cousin.
Unajua hii mambo ya party, to me, after gathering all information, to me, I guess there was no party. And maybe the issue of party was just meant just to entice her to come so that they can meet. Probably the guy had that motive, and the only thing the guy knew is I'll entice her, there is a party. Cause after the post-mortem, the doctor confirmed to us the girl, her passage was blocked and that she was unable to breathe. And out of it, the last food that she ate at her place ndizo zilipatikana kwa airways za lungs. Meaning that even it is possible hakuna kitu hata aliweza kukula, kwa sababu ile chakula ilionekana kwa njia za mapavu ni ile chakula alikuwa amekula nyumbani wakati alikuwa ametoka nyumbani.
Here is more context. It is about 8 kilometers from Kabarak University to where Wangoi's body was found. And that is if you are using the unofficial road. It will be much more of a distance if you chose to go back to Nakuru town, then turn onto the Nakuru Eldoret highway, then Tungata Bridge, the scene of the tragic discovery. So, where was this party held, and did someone carry Wangoi's body for 8 kilometers from Kabarak University? In a screenshot capturing communication between Tracy and Margaret Waithaka, the woman who first alerted the family to the death of their daughter, Tracy states that Mary Wangoi had been invited to a house party. Now this detail matters a lot, maybe not to the police, but to murder tapes. You see, that message was sent just hours after Mary left home, at a time when the night's events were still unfolding and Mary's itinerary remained fresh in Tracy's mind. We believe there was no benefit then to reinterpretation or hindsight. What Tracy relayed was simply what she knew, where Mary had said she was going and why. We believe that this information was still fresh in Tracy's mind, and she had no way of confusing whether it was a house party or a campus party. Based on this contemporaneous communication, Murder Tips is inclined to believe that the gathering that Mary attended was indeed a house party, not a formal or organized student event. It is a small detail, but one rooted in immediacy, and often those are the details closest to the truth. And in the absence of any official clarification from Kabarak University regarding this tragic incident, I formally delivered a letter to the university's management seeking clarity on the events of that day and whether any student-related activity may have been involved. The request was made in the interest of fairness, accuracy, and responsible reporting. Another question, perhaps the most basic of all, appears never to have been interrogated. And that is that the phone call that drew Mary Wangoi out of the house came from a known individual. Police records identify him as Mika Kiprotich. So, what is his account of that night?
He denied everything. Akasema yeah, they were in the party, but wao waliachania kwa party. Kila mtu akaenda zake. That is what he said. Alisema ni ukweli, hata ni alikubali invite na wakakutana huko kwa party. But after the party, kila mtu alienda njia zake. That's what he said.
And that is precisely what Murder Tips finds difficult to comprehend. I may not claim to be the most romantic person around, but from everything we have established, the relationship between Mika Kiprotich and Mary Wangoi appeared close. Whether it was intimate, murder tips cannot say. What is clear to murder tips is that this relationship was significant. It was personal and it was special in its own way. So significant, in fact, that Mika did not want Wangoi to disappoint them a second time. And so I struggled to understand how, after insisting that Mary Wangoi attend this party to the point of sending her transport money, Mika would then allow her to find her way home alone. How does a man who calls, persuades, and even facilitates her journey, picks her up at the bus terminus, then suddenly leave her to fend for herself, to find her way home? At what point did responsibility end? Under what circumstances did Mary Wangoi leave the alleged party? And then there exists what investigators and courts know as the doctrine of last seen with. It is a simple but powerful principle in law, where a person is last seen alive in the company of another, and shortly thereafter is found dead. Now the burden shifts. I will allow Advocate Kiroko Ndegwa to take it over from there.
It is a product of what we call circumstantial evidence, where a person of interest or an accused person is a person who was last seen with a deceased, a victim of a murder or a victim of a killing. And what happened is that now, after corroborative evidence has been proffered, the accused is now invited to explain his whereabouts and the whereabouts of the victim. If he is unable to provide a reasonable explanation to discharge the guilty presumption that he might have been involved in the murder of the victim, then he is deemed to be guilty. There are several elements. First, there has to be cogent evidence that points fingers towards the victim being last seen with this person. And then there is no further explanation on the whereabouts of the deceased up until either when the body is discovered or either there is nothing to explain away what happened after that. So it is only that information of what happened after the meeting, after this person being last seen with the deceased, is information only peculiarly and exclusively at the possession of the accused. In
Mary Wangoi's case, police records acknowledge that Mika Kiprotich was the last known person to have summoned Wangoi, hosted the gathering she attended, and received her at the terminus. That alone should have triggered rigorous interrogation under this doctrine. It should have anchored timelines, phone data analysis, witness corroboration, and forensic reconstruction of her final movements. But instead, that legal lever appears never to have been pulled, leaving a gaping hole where accountability should have been.
Ilienda ikafika mahali hata nikipigia the actual investigating officer yule sasa alini-investigate na alinipea mpaka namba yake. Ilifika wakati sasa hata alichukulia namba. Sasa wacha huyu madam DCI usiku na yule alikuwa anahusika, anaenda hapa. Huyo sasa investigating officer, she just blocked me. She couldn't talk to me. Na unajua sasa haiko imefika wakati ati mimi nimekuwa very inquisitive from her, na nilikuwa tu nauliza ile maswali kuhusu mtoto wangu. Sasa nikaona in the middle of things hata simu hanichukulii. Ikaenda hivyo, hata mimi nikaona sasa hii simu kidogo inanichanganya na inani affect sana. Nikipigia mtu simu na tuliongea naye vizuri anakosa kunijibu, in fact hiyo niliondoa kwa CV yangu. Isiwe nikiona niwe tempted tena kumpigia tena aninyamazie. Lakini ya huyu DCI bado niko naye. Hoping that maybe sababu yeye ni mtu wako na ofisi kubwa kidogo angepenya kwa hiyo maneno. Sasa hizi nikimpigia simu utasikia the kind of story she's going to tell if you won't mind. Sababu niko na namba yake hapa. Si ati nilitupa namba yake.
We've seen other cases where justice have been served. So we are still hopeful. Yeah. Though I don't know if we in the matter of a death, I don't know how justice is served when it comes to death. You know, death is not like, let's say, abduction. When your loved one is abducted, then they come back to you safe and sound. And whoever had done the abduction, an action is taken against them, then you can say that justice has been served. It's totally different when you lose a loved one. You'll never see that person again.
Mary's sisters, the firstborn, after running her death, she somehow got shocked and she had some issues with her heart. Actually, after burying Wangoi, haikupita mwezi mmoja naye akaaga. And it came as a result of ile shock ya kuona dadake amekufa. Kwa alikuwa na complications za roho. So it was double tragedy.
We later lost another sister who was having heart conditions. She kept calling and asking me, why would somebody take the life of Mary? What is it that she did so big that that somebody will just take her life away? It's something you'd never ever been able to understand. It's a question that you'll never be able to answer.
Nakuta juu ya ufisadi na maneno ya siasa, unakuta wale watu ambao wanafanya investigation pale juu, they are not the best that the country need to have. Na kama ni wale wako, they only suit the political class. And for example, if this was a political issue, ungeona mambo yamekuwa yameshika njia, within no time tungekuwa tumeshapata majibu. But since this is not a political issue, that is the reason why inachukua muda mrefu kwa wao kuweza kuunravel what happened. So it's the high time the government need to employ or to give work those who qualify.
The horror, the suffocation, the sexual assault. Such a senseless, brutal end for a young woman with a future now stolen. But sadly, we live in a nation plagued by unresolved murders and a justice system struggling under its own weight. So let's be honest. Mary Wangoi's case did not fail because there were no leads. It failed because someone somewhere stopped caring. Look here. She went to meet people. She actually met them. Then her body was found. A suspect was arrested, and then the system went quiet. That silence is not neutral. Silence is always, or most times, a decision. It tells a grieving family that their daughter's life was not important enough to pursue. It tells the public that investigations in this country can simply be abandoned without explanation, without accountability, without consequence, especially consequence. If the police have evidence, then prosecute. And if they don't, explain why an arrest was made in the first place. And if the truth is uncomfortable, if it implicates failures, if it implicates negligence, or something worse, then hiding behind closed files will not make it disappear. Open an inquest. Put the evidence on record. Put witnesses under oath. Let the facts speak. Because when the state goes quiet after a murder, it is no longer just incompetence. It begins to look like protection. Mary Wangoi was not just another name in a file. She was a citizen whose life the state had a duty to protect and a duty to explain when that protection failed. Thanks for watching. Good evening.